A title in the WWE is just a chunk of metal unless there's a level of prestige and a level of importance that makes people want to care about winning the darn thing. Yet that's not the case with every title in the WWE. There are some titles that feel significantly more important than others, and some titles that feel like they've been treated with better respect than others as well. So today we're doing a little bit of a State of the Union as we review the state of every current WWE title on the roster today. So we're going to look at whether or not it feels important. What's the prestige of it right now? Is it worth something fighting for? And does it even really matter? And hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. We just got to 100,000 subscribers. So first of all, a thank you, but also you're going to be getting a couple of special videos throughout the week. I'm going to give you my top 100 favorite wrestlers of all time and my top 100 matches of all time to celebrate this great milestone. Thank you. But still, hey, the journey isn't over. Make sure you subscribe. You know, I think it feels appropriate to start off with the Intercontinental Championship, a championship that currently feels super special as it is held by Gunther, the ring general who just became the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. If we were talking 2 years ago, this would be the biggest joke of a title in the WWE. I honestly had this below the 24/7 championship. That's how useless I felt like this title was. And it's a shame because this title for a very long time was not just the workhorse title, but it was like the stamp of approval title. Like if you won the Intercontinental Championship, it generally meant that you were next in line to win something big. You were next in line to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, the Royal Rumble, win a world championship, whatever it might be. It was like the biggest stepping stone that you could take as a WWE superstar to get into the main event scene. And for the last 15 or so years, it really hasn't felt that way. It has truly felt like a title belt to give something for mid-carders to do during the show. It never really felt like a prize worth striving for, a prize worth sweating and bleeding over. It just sort of felt like a prop. Now, thanks to Gunther, the ring general, it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like the title has come back out of the doldrums and now feels not just more prestigious, but as prestigious as it's ever truly felt. Like Gunther has done an amazing job of elevating this title to the point where in back-to-back years, the best match of the year so far as of the making of this video in 2023, the best match of 2023 was for the IC title and the best match of 2022 was for the IC title. And that's really all been off of the back of Gunther. On top of that, thanks to Gunther helping elevate the prestige of the Intercontinental Championship, we have bona fide main eventers and world champions going after the title like Drew McIntyre and Gunther. And that's not something that would have been the case a few years ago when the likes of like Nakamura or Sami Zayn were champions. So in terms of the state of the Intercontinental Championship, it's in a fantastic place. It's never felt more prestigious. It's never felt more sought after. It's never felt like this much of an attraction. So this title, this championship is in a fantastic state as of today. Next up, we have the brother of the Intercontinental Championship, the United States title. And for the last 15 years or so, it's truly felt like the United States Championship was significantly more important than the Intercontinental Championship. This is the title that felt more like the stepping stone more than anything else. And hey, let's not forget that amazing John Cena run as the Intercontinental Champion, which really helped elevate this title. But in recent years, just like the Intercontinental Championship, this belt has sort of just felt like it was there, like it's a prop, like it's something for mid-carders to do to give them an excuse to appear on television. And unfortunately, even though the current United States champion is a Hall of Famer, a veteran of the game in Rey Mysterio, it doesn't feel like Rey Mysterio is helping elevate this thing. In fact, it kind of just feels like he's just holding it. It kind of just feels like it's just like a transitional piece to give us feuds. It doesn't feel like a title worth striving for at the moment. And before Rey Mysterio, Theory really didn't do any favors to the title either. It was also left off of many premium live events in consecutive months, which definitely didn't help the lineage and the status of the title either. And Rey Mysterio being champion really isn't helping this whole situation because we all know he's not going to hold this title. He's not really there to help elevate it. He's really just holding it until the next guy comes along and takes it from him. And that's never a good thing when we're kind of just expecting and waiting for the next champion. So in terms of the state of the United States Championship, it's not looking great right now. I think we need to find that one guy, that one champion that can truly help elevate this thing and make it into must-watch television. And I think that guy can be LA Knight. Because if it's just going to bounce between Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, and Theory, like I don't see any three of those guys being able to really help elevate this title. So the state of it just isn't great at the moment. I don't think it's a title worth the blood, sweat, and tears. Next up, we have the NXT North American title. And hey, this encompasses all of North America, including the United States, so it only makes sense that, of course, it's Dominic Mysterio that's the champion right now. I would say that for an NXT mid-card title, the North American Championship is in a great position, and it's doing a great job of not just showcasing the future of NXT with the likes of Ali, Dragon Lee, of course, Dominic Mysterio as well. But I think it can also be used to catapult and find our next contender for the NXT World title. I personally 100% think it's believable that at some point we're going to get Dominic versus Carmelo Hayes, because Dominic has just become one of the big attractions of NXT. And I think he himself, like his star power that he brings from the main roster, the fact that he's accompanied by Rhea Ripley, sometimes by the rest of Judgment Day on NXT, and he's carrying this title not just in NXT but also showing it off in the main roster, means that this title feels more prestigious than it's ever really felt before, because it's gotten so many more eyeballs than it's ever had. On top of that, the title is integral to a main storyline happening in the main roster, being that every member of the Judgment Day has gold. If Dominic Mysterio doesn't hold this, that storyline doesn't really work. I do think that the title has never really lost its prestige. I think that title has always really felt special from NXT Black and Gold days to today, but I think it was a brilliant idea to put this title on Dominic Mysterio to again help elevate and bring eyeballs to that mid-card division of NXT on Monday Night Raw as well. So when it comes to the North American title, I think it's in a very healthy state at the moment, and I think it's going to have a very important marquee match at No Mercy as well. Let's do the NXT Tag Team Championships, a title that's currently being held by the family, whereas the Gabagool, Tony D, as well as Stacks. And as much as I do enjoy them as champions, I think that it's very evident that these titles mean a lot less at the moment because the division is so weak. Like these titles, there was a moment in time during NXT Black and Gold where these were the most prestigious titles on the entire roster. And that's because the best division in NXT at the time was the tag team division. It was so good. It was main eventing takeover shows. I think it main evented back-to-back takeover shows once, and nowadays it just doesn't feel that way. We haven't had truly special NXT tag team champions in what feels like a couple of years, and whoever is champion never truly feels like they're elevating these titles, and I think it's the same case for Tony D and Stacks. I think that they are great character workers, but they are limited by I think that they're great champions, and I also think they're super likable and great character workers, but they're limited by the tag team division itself, which is very weak. And if the division itself is very weak, then I would say that the state of the titles are pretty weak as well. Next up, we have the Undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. A set of titles that not long ago were at its peak. I mean, it main evented an entire night of WrestleMania, and they were integral to the biggest storyline in WWE history. Now, that's not really the case, but it's not necessarily a terrible thing, because I'm hoping that this means that we can take these titles out of just being exclusively part of main event storylines and actually defend them in the tag team division, a division that is very, very strong, but a division that hasn't had anything to fight for because it's felt like the tag titles have been out of reach and unobtainable to any of the traditional tag teams on Raw or SmackDown. Now, the current champions, the Judgment Day, as of the making of this video, I'm a little bit nervous about their willingness to actually defend these with traditional tag tag team. So we'll see. Hopefully they don't run into the same problems that we were all complaining about when it came to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being champions, where they were only being used as auxiliary pieces to bigger storylines and being tossed into 6-man tag matches, as opposed to actually having feuds and matches with traditional tag teams on the main roster. Again, we're just so early on to really make a decision as to the state of the tag team titles. So I'll say that the state of these is that they're teetering. It could go either way as of the making of this video. They could end up being amazing. Maybe Judgment Day truly revitalizes these and helps revitalize and make the tag team division feel important again. Or maybe they're going to do the same thing that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens did, which is make these completely unattainable and hold them hostage away from the tag team division. So I'm going to refrain from giving an opinion because the new champs are just so new still. But I still think that they feel special. I wouldn't have been surprised had the tag team titles match been the main event of Payback. I think that the stakes were big enough and the match was good enough and it had enough star power where it could have been the main event of that show. So these titles still hold enough prestige to be able to main event just about any show that they want to. So in that regard, I still think that the height of the Usos' reign, the major victory at WrestleMania from Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, all of those months and years of helping build up these titles still make them feel special today, even though they're not at that height. So I think that they're more good than bad at the moment. But again, we'll really withhold from giving like a really concrete opinion on these. Next up, we have the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Now, these titles are fucking cursed, dude. Within the span of a few months, this thing has been used like hot potato. It just keeps switching hands. I really thought that they were going to be rejuvenated and revitalized by Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler winning them, but really they were just used as an auxiliary piece to one of their feuds. And then now being held by Chelsea Green, whose partner got injured, and now it's her and Doudrop. Like, these things really are cursed. And unfortunately, I think that these titles have little to no prestige at the moment. I feel like the only reason they exist is to give talent screen time, and that doesn't necessarily do it any justice in terms of helping create a level of importance to them. I mean, sure, they're doing their job and their function of giving us the ability to see 4 women in the ring as opposed to 2, but it's just being used as a way to get 4 people on screen as opposed to really help drive like a good narrative, a good storyline, and giving us a reason as viewers to even give a damn about these things. Like, literally, I don't care for these titles in any way, shape, or form. I think that they made a big mistake not putting these titles on Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I think that they could have been the ones to truly spearhead this division, and since they didn't make that decision, these titles just continue to plummet in terms of importance. And I think these titles need their Gunther, per se. I think they need their badass, their legitimizers, and maybe that can be Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. But as of right now, these titles mean jack shit. Like the state of these titles is not good. Next up, we have the NXT Women's Championship. The NXT Women's title is currently being held by the center of the universe, Miss Tiffany Stratton. And I would say that the NXT title is in a great spot right now. I think the title matters more than ever, thanks to the likes of Becky Lynch making the move down to NXT to try and win the NXT title. Now, as of the making of this video, we haven't had the title match between Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton, so maybe come Tuesday, Becky Lynch will be the NXT Women's Champion. And if that's the case, that is huge for this title. That is a massive get for NXT and a massive leap of importance for the NXT title as a whole. Not that Tiffany Stratton is doing a poor job as champion. I think that she's a fine champion, but similarly to the NXT tag titles, I think that Tiffany Stratton is limited in terms of her ability to help elevate this championship to just how good the actual division is, which at the moment is fairly weak. Like, really, like, aside from Lyra Valkyria, that's kind of the only other woman on the NXT roster that I could see Tiffany Stratton having a feud for the NXT Women's title title with. So if it wasn't for Becky Lynch coming down to challenge Tiffany Stratton for the title, I'd say that the title is in a bit of a doldrum and in a bit of a stagnant phase. But right now it feels important because one of the greatest women professional wrestlers of all time is vying and has its eyes for the titles, and that alone helps elevate the prestige and the desire to want to see this title be defended and the desire to see somebody fight and claw to keep it. So I'll say that as of the making of this video, based on what's happened over the last week with Becky Lynch, that the state of the NXT Women's title is very good. Next up, we have the WWE Women's title, which is currently being held by Io Sky over on Friday Night SmackDown. And I'd like to say that this title has a level of importance and prestige to it, and I think that it did when Bianca Belair was holding the darn thing, but I think it's lost a significant amount of luster since Bianca lost it to Asuka. And that's not to say that Asuka isn't a legitimate champion that could help elevate the prestige of this title and help elevate its importance and its desirable. And that's not to say that Asuka is a bad wrestler or a bad champion and that she can't herself help elevate the prestige of this title. It's that WWE never treated Asuka as somebody of importance to be holding this title. It kind of just felt like Asuka was just a mannequin holding this title because the WWE continued to put far more importance on other women on the roster that weren't the champion, and to the point where it made those women look stronger than the actual champion itself. And I wish I could say that the WWE has fixed this by now putting the title on Io Sky, but we're kind of just running on a hamster wheel with this title because we're back to the same story with Asuka, where the WWE continues to treat the actual champion as third fiddle. So I'm going to be honest, until a woman that the WWE actually cares about wins this title, this title isn't going to feel important. It sucks, but it looks to me, at least from the outside looking in, that this title is only going to matter when somebody like Charlotte or Bianca Belair holds it. Because if it's not one of those two, the WWE is going to make the champion look weak, which in turn makes the championship itself feel weak as well. It makes it feel like it's being held by the person that shouldn't be holding it, and that by proxy damages the legitimacy of the title as well. And because that's the case, because it feels like an undeserving person is holding the title, not to say that Io and Asuka are undeserving, I'm just saying the way that they're portrayed on television feels like they're undeserving champions, it makes this title's current state feel weak. So I'm going to say that this title at the moment doesn't feel very, very prestigious or very, very worth winning. Next up, we have the WWE Women's World Championship, a title that is currently being held by one of the most dominant women on Monday Night Raw in Rhea Ripley. And I will say, even though Rhea Ripley's reign as champion has been fairly lackluster, I think that the title feels very prestigious and very strong. And I say this because I believe that it's currently being held by the most legitimate woman on the roster to be champion. Like, it feels like whoever wants to try and win this title off of Rhea Ripley is going to have to go to hell and back. It needs to be a David versus Goliath story. So the title itself feels really prestigious and really worth striving for and winning. It's just that Rhea Ripley's reign as the actual champion itself has been lackluster because of her lack of feuds. I don't know if I'm properly explaining this, but even though she hasn't had these feuds, these legitimate contenders going after her, I still think that the title feels strong and special because Rhea Ripley is strong and special and appearing on Monday Night Raw, on NXT, being in main event segments on Monday Night Raw, even if it isn't involving her. She is the most powerful member of one of the most powerful factions in the WWE, and she's doing all this while holding this world championship. So to me, this is a world champion that, although the reign has been weak because of her lack of matches, her ability to elevate the prestige of the title has been top notch. So much so that the title feels so special that the only other person that could genuinely have enough star power to win this thing off of Rhea Ripley is Becky Lynch, who they're keeping off of Monday Night Raw and sending over to NXT, most likely to set up a match at WrestleMania. So I would say that the current state of the Women's World Championship is that it feels strong, it feels prestigious, it's just not being defended enough times to help give it more legitimacy see. But hell, I think that it's a prize absolutely worth striving for and fighting for at the moment. Next up, we have the NXT Championship, as I'm realizing that this is the old NXT Women's title. Whoop, my bad, dude. Sorry, Carmelo Hayes, but you're the new NXT Women's Champion. Nah, just kidding. Carmelo Hayes is the current NXT Champion. And the NXT Championship, I would say, feels more special than it's felt over the last 2 years because we have a trifecta of NXT main eventers vying for it. Not only do we have a fighting champion in the likes of Carmelo Hayes, who took it off of one of the most dominant champions in NXT recent history in Braun Breaker, but then we also have arguably the best professional wrestler on the planet in Ilya Dragunov and one of the most exciting professional wrestlers on the planet in Wes Lee trying to win the thing. So it feels special on NXT. I do think that it took a little bit of a hit when he was losing matches to the likes of members of Judgment Day like Finn Balor, but that can be forgiven because those guys are seen as better than because they are on the main roster and these fellas are in the quote minor leagues or farm system. But I think the NXT title is in a great spot right now. I think it has a lot of great contenders. The lineage of it still feels really strong and really, really important. So I will say that the NXT title gets a thumbs up for me. It feels like it's in a good, healthy state. It's not, like to the levels of where it was when like the Adam Coles of the world were champion or Johnny Garganos or Aleister Blacks. Like it's not NXT Black and Gold, but it's in a healthy spot. I would say the healthiest it's ever been since the end of NXT Black and Gold. Next up, we have the WWE World Heavyweight Championship that is currently being held by Seth freaking Rollins. And look, this is no fault of Seth Rollins. The title, unfortunately to me, even though it's beautiful, just doesn't feel special yet because it still feels like a participation trophy in my eyes because it's not the one being held by Roman Reigns. And that's a pretty pessimistic way of looking at things, but I'm sorry, it's just how I feel. I don't think that this is the top prize in the game. It feels like it's just the second place trophy. And part of what's driving this opinion is that this title is brand new. Sure, the WWE wants us to believe that, hey, this still carries the lineage of the rest of the world heavyweight champions since all the way back to 2002, but it doesn't. This is still a brand new title. No way around it. Like seriously, this is a brand new title, so it still needs a long time to be able to feel special. Like remember the WWE Universal Championship? That thing didn't feel special for a really, really long time. And I think that's the case with the World Heavyweight Championship. I will say it helps that it is a title that is being fought for on a regular basis. It's being fought for on Monday Night Raw, on NXT, on premium live events. So clearly, it's getting good exposure. So it needs more feuds. It needs more champions for it to feel special. But again, until Roman Reigns is dethroned, this is going to feel like a second place ribbon. So in terms of the current state of the title, it's on its way up, but it still pales in comparison to the importance of the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. Speaking of which, the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. And it only took me like 8 months to properly be able to say the name of the title without stuttering through it. Currently, the champion is, of course, your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. By the way, have you taken a minute out of your day to acknowledge the tribal chief? Now's your opportunity to do so. The championship is special. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. Like this is the prize. This is still, to me, 2 titles. This is still the thing that you want to win. This is how you say you finish the story, folks. So yeah, sure. Okay. So maybe it doesn't get defended as often as we'd like it to be defended. That's obviously a problem. Absolutely. But that's a problem with Roman Reigns. That's not a problem with the championship. And I wouldn't say that his lack of defenses make the championship feel less special. It just makes Roman more of a must-see attraction alongside the title as well. And of course, it's been part of the most important wrestling storyline in the last 2 decades. So, I mean, kind of like by proxy to being part of the bloodline story, by proxy of being held by Roman Reigns, and by proxy of the fact that it's 2 of the biggest championships in professional wrestling being merged together, this title, it will always be the most important, and it still feels prestigious no matter of how often or not often Roman Reigns actually defends this thing. Like this is still like the title that you want want to go to hell for. So it's in a great spot. I just wish it got defended more, but I do think that, you know, the few times that it does get defended, it always feels super special. That's it. I'm done. Get out of here.